up, it's the time to motivate your mind. Come with me, let's make this moment brighter. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Come on and wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Hey.
Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise. I'm Anastasia Palacios.
Good morning. Happy Monday to you. I'm Philip Simon II.
And it is a pleasure to be in your company. You're Philip Simon II today.
Today I am.
Today you are.
I am, yes.
It must be an interesting life to be Phil. He gets to choose who he is on any given day. You know, I thought I was doing well with the Anastasia Star thing, but you know.
You know, Eswan, you got a long name, man.
I have a long
No wonder you're so
name.
smart. You had to spell that really young.
Really early. Really
Yeah,
early. But that's
really
also
early.
why I thought my name was Star for so long.
Yeah.
It's like Anastasia.
Had to
That's
short
like
it up,
10
eh?
letters,
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, it's been a wonderful weekend, Phil. I had the opportunity yesterday evening to host Miss Bahamas Universe.
Congratulations.
With my good friend Chester Robards, and
Yeah.
we really had a fantastic time. 11 phenomenal women hit the stage. And Phil, I love pageantry. I've watched it for some time. And I've got to tell you that this is one of the best cohorts of women that I've ever seen. And
Really?
certainly a fantastic legacy that was carried on. So congratulations to Danielle Grant, who is our new Miss Bahamas Universe.
Well, congratulations, Danielle, and to all of the ladies who participated in it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it. Was it on television?
It was not televised last
Okay.
night. It will be coming out on television in about 2 weeks, so we want
Okay.
people to stay tuned.
All right.
Congratulations to Anthony and his team that put it all together.
Oh, Anthony Smith.
Anthony
Yeah,
Smith, and if you're
yeah.
looking forward to it, you can follow Miss Bahamas online. I'm sure they will let you know when it will be airing.
Well, I'm sure the pictures will be coming out fast and furious. My weekend was actually
Chill?
chill. I didn't do much over the weekend. I was in and out of sleep for most of the
so
weekend.
jealous.
Just one little family event, and took my son to the barber, and that was it.
That's awesome. That sounds like the perfect weekend, minus the barber thing, because I don't necessarily have to go there myself. But, you know, the sleep thing, because I got about 3 hours last night after the pageant and before the
You
show.
look good. You look good. I mean,
Yeah,
everything's still right.
this is, you know,
Yeah.
it's all for you guys. We're wishing that you will have a wonderful day. And, of course, we've got a wonderful show lined up for you. Phil, who we have coming
Yeah,
up
we have the
first?
Ministry of Education, like we said on Friday, is back to talk about professional development. It's Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. The good doctor is back in the house. That's Greg Pinto to talk about urology care. And, of course, Sun Oil is back to talk about their back-to-school extravaganza, which was held recently.
In Abaco. And so that's an exciting story. I'd love to bring in news from the Family Islands. In addition to that, our legal aid segment is here. I'm excited about this conversation that you're going to be having, because what has been happening in the tourism world, in the real estate world, Airbnb has been taking over. A wonderful source of income for many people to rent out spaces in their homes. We're going to talk about the legalities of that in the Bahamas. There were some laws enacted recently over the past year that define that more. So I'm looking forward to
everywhere.
that.
I mean, it's everywhere. It's through my neighborhood. It's everywhere.
And mine
Yeah.
as well, and mine as well. So we're going to learn some more about that this morning. And September is also Sickle Cell Awareness Month. And Dr. Kim Cartwright is here to discuss that with us. Know so many people that suffer from sickle cell. And I carry the trait myself, and so I don't have it, but I do carry the trait. So it's interesting to know those dynamics as well. So we're going to have that conversation this morning. But before we get to any of that, raining off and on last night, Phil, and even this morning when I was coming in.
But it was still a pretty good weekend. Still a pretty good
nice
weekend. I mean, of course, we've seen the images coming in from the United
Carolina,
States.
So we're going to learn some more about what we can expect with weather this week with a first look at weather with Godfrey Burnside.
Weather at Sunrise, brought to you by Bahamas First. First in insurance, today, tomorrow.
Thank you, Star. Good morning, Bahamas. Your first look at weather at sunrise. In your surface chart, we do have a trough across the southeastern islands, along with tropical moisture from the remnants of Isaac, and that's moving towards the west. And so it's going to have some showers and thunderstorms in the southeastern islands, moving to the central and southeastern islands by midweek. So we could expect some later in the week. In your satellite loop, you can actually see a lot of clouds across the southeastern islands at this time. Weather today, we'll look at a mix of sun and clouds. Most of the cloudiness in the southeastern islands with a few showers, isolated thunderstorms, high temperature 91 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, we're looking at partly cloudy, still warm, with a few scattered showers, late night, early morning, and the possibility of some thunderstorm activity. Your low temperature go down to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And some regional highs and lows across the Caribbean. Barbados, 86 and 78. In Jamaica, 80 and 74. In Trinidad, 84 and 76. and the Turks and Caicos Islands 87 and 77. Across North America, Atlanta 83 and 70, in Raleigh 83 and 71, in Miami 87 78, Dallas, Texas 87 74, and Toronto, Canada 78 and 69. For the weather look, we can have a mix of sun and clouds here the middle of the week with some showers and possible thunderstorms as that trough moves towards the west. Temperature daytime will continue to be in the lower 90s at daytime, upper 70s at nighttime. That puts you up your first look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Star.
Thank you so much, Godfrey. Well, to remain competent in a competitive world, continued professional development is imperative. Here to discuss this with us, we're very happy to welcome from the Ministry of Education, Miss Althea Hamilton Grant, who's an Assistant Director at the Ministry of Education, and Mrs. Michelle Sayers. She's also an Assistant Director at the Ministry of Education. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
A pleasure to have you both with us. And our cameraman and I were talking with you before we began, and we said, you can tell that you're from the Ministry of Education. You certainly represented well, articulating yourselves in such a professional manner. And of course, we're talking about professional development today. The first thing I want to do is define for everyone, right? This is how we know it's the ministry. We want to set those definitions right away and make sure that we're clear on what we're discussing. What is professional development?
Professional development is dealing with training.
Okay.
It's also dealing with enhancing skills that professionals possess.
Okay.
It's also dealing with keeping our colleagues and employees abreast of trends that can enhance the organization and make it a successful one.
Okay, certainly sounds very important. I think about some of the teachers that I've had for many years, years ago, and they're still teaching school today. And so certainly we would have seen challenges and changes in our system from a social side to an academic side, things that we know now that we didn't know 20 years ago. And so of course this is important to ensuring that there's longevity and correction to the system. How does that professional development training look for the Ministry of Education in particular? What does that make up? Is there a program or a score sheet that says, okay, this is what our professional development looks like, and this is what you have to have in order for us to say, yes, you've achieved this particular goal? Is there something set out like that?
There is.
Okay.
But professional development for the Ministry of Education is quite varied.
Okay.
Because we're talking about not only professional development for who we consider our professionals, our teachers who comprise the greater number of the Ministry of Education staff. We're talking about our line staff. We're talking about our security personnel. We're talking about our clerical workers, administrative personnel, accounts, the administrative team included.
Okay.
For instance, ourselves as assistant directors, there are certain bits of training that we too would participate in.
Okay.
So in recent times, the schedule has comprised and focused a lot more on teachers, yes. So persons would be familiar with the summer workshops for teachers. In addition to summer workshops, which span usually 4 to 5 days, continuous for teachers, we also have in February, we have 2 very focused days where our officers, they are subject officers, would work with our teachers. Okay. So those 2 days in particular are for teachers. In the past 6 years, we have had a 2-day conclave for school administrators.
Okay.
So that was, kind of new. As things changed, we realized that we had to pay greater attention to our principals, our vice principals, our senior masters, and senior mistresses. Now, there's also been training for, as I said before, for our staff, for the clerical staff, the support staff, right? And that too has been timetabled. I don't know, Mrs. Hamilton, do you want to share with us more about the scheduling of that kind of training?
That would be very interesting for us.
Yes, what we are planning to do is to have sessions in cohorts that will continue throughout the year. So as you began your statement, it's continuous.
Okay.
And so we have scheduled activities for the clerical staff, as Mrs. Sayers mentioned, and these will go from September to December, from January to April, and then from April to June. So what is happening is we'll be seeing our employees at least 3 times per year to help to enhance their skills, their knowledge, and it's by experience or through experience. But what we're wanting to have our employees understand, when we work through just experience alone, we tend to remain the same. So by scheduling these classes, we can open them up to new opportunities, new challenges, new ideas. And so in turn, they can return to their various places of work, and they can share these the skills and strategies that they learn, not only with our clients, but also enhance their workplace initiatives.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to ask you then, so what is this overall benefit? But you gave me the answer right away, letting us know that the exposure that you get and the opportunity that you get to engage with others who are like-minded, others in the same field, really gives you the opportunity to make some self-improvement, but improvements to the overall institution, and to kind of make sure that even though you are improving individual schools and spaces, we're improving as a collective.
Yes.
And so that's very important as well. Now, I heard something called the Mabel Walker Institute for Professional Development. And I thought that was interesting. I wanted to find out more about that, because it seems now that the ministry is really organizing itself in such a manner to call itself an institute. I like that. So the Mabel Walker Institute, let us know what that is, when it will come on stream, if it is on stream already, and even would it inspire the name, and talk to us some more about the Mabel Walker Institute.
Okay. Let me begin, since I am the Assistant Director of Education for the site. It is located at the former Mabel Walker Primary School in Big Pond. And so the name is derived from there. And we just adopted Mabel Walker as the patron. And so we continued with the name as the Mabel Walker Professional Development Institute. So we have our name. It came on stream from 2014. And as a result, we are working toward having that particular site be the hub for professional development. May I add, though, that because we have so many persons employed, all the activities for training cannot take place at Mabel Walker. So you will find that, as Mrs. Sayers indicated, with the subject officers, some of the training are done at other sites within the ministry that belong to the ministry, for instance, the schools, or maybe even the learning resources section. And so at Mabel Walker, we not only schedule classes, but from there, the assessment of the needs of the employees at the Ministry of Education is done. And from that, meeting with heads of department, we're able to determine what are the pertinent needs of our employees, and we can work with those heads and identify what courses are necessary. So the courses are scheduled from there, but they're also executed from there. And also at the Mabel Walker Institute, we are able to identify what areas needs not only our focus, but what areas we can continue with the continuing professional development activities. So it's a whole lot going on there. Yes.
I love the idea and concept of training, though. To continuously get better, I think, is major. Ms. Harris, I want to give you the final word here. What are some final thoughts that you just really want to share with us about professional development, and encourage our teachers, yes, and those in other professions to continue on seeking something higher?
I'd like to begin by saying the Mabel Walker Institute, located in Nassau, but is intended and designed really to service the entire Bahamas. Because our rooms are going to have 360 cameras, so that we can videotape, store, or live stream activities at that center. So we really designed it with the entire country in mind, right? And my final comment with regards to professional development simply is that our aim is to make sure that the Ministry of Education has a real competent, skilled workforce, and that persons above all remember the importance of continued and ongoing and lifelong learning. You're never too old to learn anything.
Well, ladies, I learned so much from you today about all of the professional development opportunities available through the Ministry of Education for all of your staff, not just the teachers. And so that was some new information for me. Really excited about the Mabel Walker Institute and the fact that it is made for the entire Bahamas. I love to hear that, because there is more to us than Nassau. So thank you so much for sharing with us this morning, and we wish you all the best with your continued professional development as you develop others.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so very much for having us.
My pleasure. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be back with more after this commercial break.
afternoon. First response. How can I help you?
I've been in an accident on West Bay Street. Can you send someone to help?
Yes, ma'am. A first response team will be there in 15 minutes. Are you hurt?
No, I'm fine, but a bit upset.
We're glad you're not hurt. Please, try to relax. Our team will take care of everything as soon as they arrive.
First Response provides immediate on-site service and support from the scene of an accident through the claims and repair process. And it's free to all Bahamas First insured drivers in New Providence, every day for any type of accident. If you drive and want First Response on your side, call 32-FIRST or visit bahamasfirst.com for the name of an authorized Bahamas First agent. First Response can't prevent an accident from happening,
But it can certainly ease your mind when it happens.
The Bahamian dream for generations has been home ownership. Do-It-All Home Improvement can help make your dream a reality with our affordable home solutions. We can provide a variety of packages with beautiful home designs and custom construction prices you can afford. Granite countertops, custom kitchen cabinets, crown moldings, porcelain tiles, and lots of storage. Call us today at 427-9343 or 322-3130. We're honest, reliable, and trustworthy.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. Men, this segment is especially for you, but women, listen up just in case. 1 out of 6 men throughout their lifetime will develop prostate cancer, and unfortunately, men of African ancestry develop a more aggressive form. Back to talk about prostate cancer, you like to call him the ambassador for men's health, Dr. Gregory Pinto. Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you very much, Philip.
Yeah, good to see you. You know, these statistics continue to kind of alarm me.
Yes.
Because it really surprises me. When we talk about 1 in 6 men, we're not talking about now, but throughout their lifetime, if they live into their older ages, will develop prostate cancer. Why is that?
Well, as a man gets older, God has made us that we're going to eventually, get prostate cancer. So if you look at men in their 80s, there's going to be a high predominance of men who are actually going to have prostate cancer if we look for it. But is it going to be the cause of their death? In most cases, no. It usually takes 12, 15 years before they succumb to prostate cancer. They usually die of old age or some other unrelated condition before that. So that's how the numbers are skewed substantially, because as man, but particularly worldwide, men are growing to be older. So that's why there are more cases of prostate cancer. It's not necessarily that they're going to it's going to be the cause of their death.
Okay. And it says that men of African ancestry have a higher rate.
Well, that's one of the risk factors.
Okay.
So when you look at the risk factors for prostate cancer, black ancestry, Caribbean ancestry, men of African origin actually have a substantially higher risk of developing prostate cancer. Unfortunately, again, they actually have a higher risk of developing an earlier stage of prostate cancer and a more aggressive form. In the Bahamas, we have more than one whammy, because obesity is associated with a more aggressive form of prostate cancer. High alcohol intake also has a substantially higher incidence of prostate cancer. So we have to be extremely diligent in this country in trying to pick up prostate cancer early. The wonderful news is that if you were to choose a cancer, nobody obviously wants to have a cancer diagnosis, but if you were to choose a cancer, particularly as a male, prostate cancer would be the one to choose, because it's the easiest to diagnose early, and we have all the different treatment modalities available that can cure you with almost 100% certainty, and you can go on with your life like it's a little bump in the road. It doesn't have to be this great traumatic event. There are different treatment modalities, in fact, including active surveillance. We can pick up prostate cancer when it's clinically insignificant, so it can watch you for 12 years, 15 years. There's radiation. There's brachytherapy, placing radioactive seeds into the prostate that can cure you in an outpatient procedure in 1 hour. There's radical surgery, which can be done open with a bigger cut, laparoscopically with a little keyhole incisions, or with the Da Vinci robot. So there are many different treatment regimes. Many of them we have an overlap where you might have radiation or brachytherapy, or brachytherapy or radiation, or even hormonal treatment for 18 months to 2 years. But if we can pick up prostate cancer, which I can say with certainty that if you're in your 40s, all you need is a PSA blood test. If that test is abnormal, we can do more specific blood tests. We can do an MRI, which doesn't involve radiation, we can pick up prostate cancer when it's even clinically insignificant, where it's such a low volume, such an early stage that we can watch you. So this whole fear and of embarrassment or violation of the dreaded finger.
Yes.
The dreaded finger has a role in staging.
Okay.
It has a role in later disease. It has a role in part of the treatment. If a 40-year-old, 45-year-old man in their early 50s comes for routine screening, no, we're not going to do the digital exam.
Okay.
And this is the information age. You can go on the internet and you can look it up, and you can see that there's a vast amount of information saying that the digital rectal exam for at least the last 2 years is falling out of favor because there's little evidence to support it.
Okay. Well, what about, you know, you talk about early detection. I mean, is there a particular age? You mentioned your 40s. You know, are there signs related to the probability of a prostate cancer?
That's similar to hypertension. It's called a silent killer. You may have no symptoms at all.
Wow.
Symptoms of peeing frequently or having a weak stream, in almost all cases, statistically, is related to benign disease, BPH. So the only symptoms you really have for prostate cancer when it's advanced, when you're going to have unfortunate cancer spread to the bones, the pelvis, to the back, or you may present with signs of kidney failure. But in terms of waiting for symptoms to know that you have prostate cancer, no. That's the wrong way of thinking.
Just dig a little bit more into, you mentioned it earlier, brachytherapy and the process involved with that. It's a pretty new kind of process?
It's been around about 30 years.
Oh,
It's being introduced to the Bahamas as a new entity, but it's in first world countries, many first world countries, but particularly in Europe and Canada. It's one of the #1 treatment modalities. The reason for that is when you have prostate cancer, what we describe as urologists, you want the trifecta. You want an obvious cure, you want the cancer to be in remission and never come back, but you want to maintain the erectile function and you want to maintain the urinary continence. You don't want them leaking every time they cough, they sneeze. And you want the erections the same they were before we do the treatment modality. So for the trifecta, the best treatment modality is brachytherapy. It's the least invasive. You can actually go home. You can go to work the next day. There's no recovery period. And you can be cured at a superior rate or equal rate to even the Da Vinci robotic prostatectomy.
Wow. Okay, so for men who are out there listening, and of course their loved ones who are listening.
Well, it's the women who really have
to
push the men.
Exactly, you push them in.
The blood.
When should we start to really pay attention to this? Is there a particular age? Does it vary? Would you say you start including these into your physicals at the age of 30 or 35?
No, there's no evidence to support that. But because we're predominantly of African ancestry in the Bahamas, because we have the issue of obesity, we need to start at 40 just with a simple blood test. Not the digital exam, but simple blood tests. If a man comes for the first time and maybe they're 55, yes, you can academically argue the use of the digital rectal exam may have benefit. But you always have to look at the harm versus the benefit. In your 40s, it's almost unheard of to find prostate cancer. And if you have an abdominal blood test or a more specific blood test, there's a urine RNA test. And the MRI is the Rolls Royce of imaging and diagnostic modalities. You can pick up prostate cancer almost 100% certainty, 8-10 years before the dreaded finger.
Wow. Okay. Now listen, Doc, tell us how we can reach you once again. Give us the contact numbers.
Well, I'm available as a consultant at Princess Margaret Hospital. I'm also available in private at Doctors Hospital, and my main office is at the Centerville Medical Center at 326-1929. That's 68 Collins Avenue and 6 Stairs.
All right, Doc.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Philip.
you once again for being on Bahamas at Sunrise. We've been with Dr. Gregory Pinto. This month is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Get yourself checked, y'all. We'll be right back.
Do you want to know more about the scriptures, the early Christian church, its teachings, suffering, other religions, the authenticity of the Bible? The Anglican Theological Institute is for you. Enroll in a 3-year certificate program. Classes are conducted from NASA and Freeport on Saturday mornings. Don't miss a class. Stay connected anytime, anywhere, with high-speed internet. Contact us at 603-2481. Visit our Facebook page. Pick up an application form at any Anglican church or at Addington House on Sands Road. The Anglican Theological Institute is for you.
At the 15th Annual Abaco Business Outlook. Join TCL Group on Thursday, September 20th, 2018 at the beautiful Abaco Beach Resort to talk about how to boost the island to world-class status. Hear from local industry experts, including Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Michael Pintard, Kerry Fountain, the Executive Director for the Bahamas Out Island Promotion Board, MP for Central and South Abaco, James Albury, President of the Abaco Chamber of Commerce, Ken Hutton, the director for the National Insurance Board, Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, Patrice Roll from Sunshine Insurance, Carlos Mackey, the principal for Prime Finance and Consulting, Donovan Ingram, the corporate wellness coordinator for Atlantic Medical Insurance, from Graham Thompson, Samantha Williams and Alistair Crisnell, and Kevin Seymour, Chief Financial Officer for Pharmachem Technology GB Limited. The Outlook will also include a special workshop by the Department of Inland Revenue. Register now. Contact Margaret Aubrey at 242-322-7505 or Winsome Ferguson from the Abaco Ministry of Tourism at wferguson@bahamas.com.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. Sun Oil hosted their third annual back-to-school extravaganza in Abaco earlier this month, and hundreds of students enjoyed delicious food and received necessary school supplies. Here is Keisha Bethel with that story.
Yeah, definitely. Free haircut. Free food. Vibes, just like a fun day. They enjoy themselves before school open and have to get back to the studies.
Also a stress reliever for the parents too, and you're rid of kids for 5 hours. Why not, right?
The Abaco community gathered for just that at the back-to-school extravaganza held by Sun Oil Limited. The event, held at the Patrick J. Bethel High School in Dundastown, attracted hundreds for their fun day before kicking off the 2018-2019 school year. According to Sun Oil Limited's marketing manager, Rufus Johnson Jr., the event is the company's way of showing the island gratitude for its support over the years.
Been doing this now for 3 years. We do it as a good corporate citizen, as a part of the Abaco community. You know, Sun Oil and Shell have been here for over 30 years and in this community. And Sun Oil has taken over for the last 10 years, and we like to try to give back to the communities in which we reside. And a part of what we do on an annual basis is through all of our depots, through all of the islands in which we reside, we help out those communities. And Abaco is one that has embraced us, that has shown us love throughout the years, and we just want to continue to give back. The feedback has been great, phenomenal. We had this year Kalina again on board, assisting with having the clinic come down and do blood pressure testing for the kids. Fortunate this year, we have also had the Pilot Club of Abaco come down to assist with serving the kids. Barbers, the hair braiders, just been phenomenal.
At the extravaganza, students left with both their stomachs and hands filled. They were served hamburgers hot off the grill, as well as juicy hot dog sandwiches, chips, and drinks. The children also received Sun Oil Limited branded backpacks with special surprises.
Books, we have notebooks, pencils, and a water bottle. And the bag, it can't really be used as a school bag, but it can be used to put all of my pea stuff in, so that's good.
There were also free haircuts for the boys and hair braiding for the girls. So how successful was the extravaganza? Johnson said this.
The feedback has been great, phenomenal. We had this year Kalina again on board, assisting with having the clinic come down and do blood pressure testing for the kids. Fortunate this year, we have also had the Pilot Club of Abaco come down to assist with serving the kids. Barbers, the hair braiders, just been phenomenal.
And the youngsters agreed with Johnson, saying that they just couldn't get enough of all that delicious fun and food.
It's good. I've seen a lot of people I didn't get to see this summer. Caught up with old friends.
It's fun. I like the burger, but it's very nice. It's like stamp and the soda. And the soda nice. They did a good job, and I'm gonna buy more burgers. Thank you, Chef. We love you.
Sun Oil Limited takes pride in its reputation as a good corporate citizen, promoting initiatives that aid in community building. In the end, it's the little things that matter. In this case, according to Johnson, the smiles said it all.
Kids have been gotten a little extra boost and getting ready early for school, and that puts a smile on their faces and it puts a smile on ours.
For Bahamas at Sunrise, I'm Keisha Bethel.
Wait, that's Omar Little from The Wire. You think everyone is Omar from The Wire?
Wow, it's really nice to meet a fan.
It's like he's right here. I telling you he's being all type shows and stuff?
And you know, Rev Go Play plays a lot of good movies and TV shows.
Excuse me, can't you see we're watching something else? Rude.
Settle all your pop culture disputes with Rev Go Play. Watch, record, and stream all your favorite shows wherever you are. Free for all Rev TV subscribers. Rev, you and us together.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. We are at the midway point of this edition.
We certainly are at the midway point of this edition. A very good conversation you're having with Dr. Pinto. Always good conversation.
You know, I love the conversation with him. He certainly brought a new level of awareness to the whole conversation about men's health and prostate cancer in particular.
Yeah, and you know, it's important because I think a lot of times, obviously, women are in the spotlight, so there's always a lot of concern about women's bodies and whether or not you're overweight. But a lot of men, and because their bodies are different, can hide weight very well for a very long time.
Yeah.
But they're eating very poorly, lots of sugars, lots of starches, and then it manifests itself around that 40 to 50 age.
Boy, well, I know about that. Right in the middle, headed towards
yeah, and
not so far away anymore.
And so I'm glad that Dr. Pinto is also letting people know that they don't have to be scared about the testing and to recognize that it may be even just a moment of discomfort, but really it's about a lifetime of making sure that you're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the segment that Keisha just did. You know, when our corporate partners get involved and make things happen, it's just the most wonderful thing. I mean, and I think we underestimate the impact that corporate Bahamas has in the community. I mean, they have a lot of persons who are taking very seriously the concept of corporate social responsibility.
And I love to see that extended beyond New Providence and into the Family Islands. And so it's been a wonderful show. We've still got more to come in this second half for you. In addition to talking about urology care this morning, we're going to be talking to you about sickle cell awareness. Really looking forward to that conversation because, again, we're talking about our population dynamics. As a predominantly African descent population, we've got that sickle cell influence here.
Definitely. And Providence Law is back addressing legal issues related to short-term vacation rentals in the Bahamas.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to that conversation. We've got that ahead for you and more. We're going to take a second look at weather. Before we do that, we want to remind you that Dance for Darien is coming up this September 21st at 8 o'clock p.m. For food and drinks will be on sale. It's at the National Art Gallery. Tickets are only $25 in advance. There's going to be a rush out by my group, One Family. We're getting ready for the end of the year. Y'all can see I'm excited. I'm hyped. And so you can get a first sampling of that at Dance for Darien on September 21st. Music is by DJ Todd. Of course, Darien would have passed away several weeks ago.
And I believe he's dancing.
And he's dancing. Certainly he is. And so we want to just celebrate his life by coming on out to support them. The tickets, of course, are $25, and it will be at the National Art Gallery starting at 8 o'clock p.m. on September 21st.
All right. Well, listen, our second look with weather at sunrise with Godfrey Burnside is right now.
Weather at sunrise, brought to you by Bahamas First. First in insurance, today, tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Good morning, Bahamas. Yes, second look at weather, sunrise, a trip around the tropics. We had a buzz last week. Now we only have two little tropical depressions, Florence in North Carolina, Joyce headed towards Azores, and then we have the Remnants Isaacs in the Caribbean Sea. Elsewhere, tropical storm formation expected during the next 5 days. On the local scene, have a trough for the southeast Bahamas, and that along with some tropical moisture from Isaac is causing some cloudiness over the southeastern islands. That's going to move to the west, increase our cloudiness come by midweek. In your marine forecast, Wednesday east at 10 to 15 knots, seas 2 to 4 feet over all the islands. On Tuesday, those winds become variable at 10 knots or less, seas less than 3 feet over northwest Bahamas, east to southeast at 15 knots, seas 3 to 5 feet over the central and southeastern islands. Then on Wednesday, over all the islands, variable at 10 knots or less, seas less than 3 feet. Your tides. You can expect a low tide at 7:28 this morning. Next high tide at 1:55 this afternoon. Low gain this evening at 8:27. Sunset at 7:10 this evening. Rises more at 6:57. UV index 8. Your water temperature 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And the moon phase for its quarter. Your external look. Mix of sun and clouds through the week with a few showers, either thunderstorm. One to maybe heavier tides, particularly southeast islands today into tomorrow. Temperature daytime will be in the low 90s, at nighttime in the upper 70s. That puts you up in your final look at weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Phil.
Thanks very much, Godfrey. Airbnb or short-term vacation rentals are all the rage these days. But in the Bahamas, what does the law say in relation to short-term rental of condos as well as homes within subdivisions? We're very pleased to be joined this morning by partner of Providence Law Chambers, Ms. Nadia Wright, to discuss this topic a little bit further with us. Welcome back, Nadia.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. It feels like it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, yes.
Yeah, welcome back. Let's begin with the definition. What is Airbnb, or what specifically is a short-term rental?
It is basically the renting of a dwelling home for a period of less than 31 days.
Okay.
Sometimes the period runs over 31 days, but it is, for the most part, a period of less than 31 days.
And when you say home, does it mean that it's an owner-occupied home, or it's just a facility that's...
Yeah, it is an owner-occupied home, so it could be a condominium, it could be a dwelling home in a subdivision, but it creates some problems if you do not have regulation.
Yeah. So what happens if the covenants do not outrightly prohibit vacation rentals, or does not state what period of time is permitted for vacation rentals?
And this is where you have the problems. Yes, herein is the problem. If you do not have specified provisions in a declaration of condominium, or for subdivision, if you don't have it specified in a declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions, because this is a long document that guides how that subdivision or that community is governed, then it's kind of a free-for-all in that the owners of the homes or of the condo, it is a home, could opt to rent their home or their condo for a period in accordance with their own discretion.
Well, it sounds correct. That's where the problem lies. I would imagine that many of the subdivisions that exist today would not have had this provision within them, and of course a lot of people are doing it. But where there's a clear breach of these covenants, where the owners who have the right to disobey the covenants and notices issued by the government, what's the recourse?
Well, the notices would be issued by the Homeowners Association, and where there is a clear breach, the Homeowners Association usually would have a cease and desist letter outlining the specific provision under the declaration that is being breached. But being in the Bahamas, some people might be like, I'm making some money here, and I need this money, and so I'm going to continue. And if they do so, they run the risk of legal action being commenced. So the Homeowners Association would have to get together, a 3/4 majority would have to come together and decide, are we going to take this matter to the next level, which is legal action. And so when they get together, you have the 3/4 majority. If they do determine that they want to incur that cost, then they would hire a lawyer. They would get that lawyer to send a demand to state if you do not cease and desist within a certain period of time. It's usually 7 to 14 days, maybe 21 days. So as to give that person the ample time to stop. Then we would continue to carry this matter before the court.
Yeah.
Once that matter ends up in court, is usually an injunction that the homeowners association is going to pursue from the Supreme Court.
You know, when we talk about, I mean, as a homeowner, I mean, shouldn't there be a certain rights insofar as me wanting to deal with my home within my own discretion?
You have that right as a homeowner, yes, but remember, if you are a homeowner who has decided I'm going to subject myself to living in a community, a private subdivision, and it might be a private condominium, it is a private condominium association. They have certain rules and regulations, and I have opted to sign on to these, which is, by the way, a recorded document.
Right.
So it's an enforceable document, stamped and recorded. Then the onus is on the homeowner to obey the provisions as set out under the Declaration of Condominium, or the Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions. You are restricted by certain provisions, and you are expected to obey them. It's for your own protection as well. That's why you have to live in a gated community or a private subdivision.
Right. Well, I mean, most areas of formed under the Subdivisions Act, I would imagine that it's going to be really difficult, especially for those that don't have a formal POA to kind of address this situation. I mean, do you really think that this issue of short-term rentals is likely to cease or slow down?
What you had mentioned earlier was very true, in that old subdivisions did not anticipate Airbnb and these short-term rentals. This is a new phenomenon, and so what it might require to curb the problem is for the homeowners associations or the subdivisions to get together to determine if they're going to amend their provisions, and they can do that by passing a resolution and having their declaration stamped and recorded and then disseminated amongst all of the homeowners. Once that happens, they can enforce that document and bring stiff penalties against the wrongdoer or the person who continues to carry on the breach.
Okay. One final question. Is there a role that the government plays in all of this, or is it something that is handled privately within the POA of a subdivision or individuals themselves?
Yeah, you touched on it. It's handled privately. The government, once that development is turned over to an association, it is for the association to determine what they would do in relation to regulating the subdivision or the condominium association.
All right. Well, listen, get yourselves informed. I guess that's the bottom line, right?
Yes.
Listen, thank you very much for joining us. You did it solo today.
Yes.
Legal aid, but welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. We've been with Nadia of Providence Law. We'll be right back.
The 15th Annual Abaco Business Outlook. Join TCL Group on Thursday, September 20th, 2018 at the beautiful Abaco Beach Resort to talk about how to boost the island to world-class status. Hear from local industry experts, including Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Michael Pintard, Kerry Fountain, the Executive Director for the Bahamas Out Island Promotion Board, MP for Central and South Abaco, James Albury, President of the Abaco Chamber of Commerce, Ken Hutton, the Director for the National Insurance Board, Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, Patrice Roll from Sunshine Insurance, Carlos Mackey, the Principal for Prime Finance and Consulting, Donovan Ingram, the Corporate Wellness Coordinator for Atlantic Medical Insurance, from Graham Thompson, Samantha Williams and Alistair Crisnell, and Kevin Seymour, Chief Financial Officer for Pharmachem Technology GB Limited. The Outlook will also include a special workshop by the Department of Inland Revenue. Register now. Contact Margaret Albury at 242-322-7505 or Winsome Ferguson from the Abaco Ministry of Tourism at wferguson@bahamas.com.
I started in 1974 with the first-born Bahamian principal, Dr. John Knowles. I am overjoyed because I've made it to the university. That was something to be proud about because I've seen all the changes from college to university. I am Mary Major Russell, and this is my UB.
Apply today at www.ub.edu.bs.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month here in the Bahamas and around the world. It is a time to provide education about sickle cell disease, to highlight the need for research, and I want to emphasize that again, to highlight the need for research and to discuss the treatment of sickle cell disease. And so we thought it was very important to have someone come here to talk with us this morning about that. We've welcomed Dr. Kim Cartwright. She's a consultant hematologist at PMH and the clinical director of hematology, transfusion, and the blood bank at Princess Margaret Hospital. Good morning, Dr. Cartwright, and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning. Thank you.
A pleasure to have you with us to talk to us about something that is really prevalent in our community based on our population, and I'm sure you'll get into that as we chat. But could we back up and start by finding out what is sickle cell disease?
So it's a group of inherited blood disorders where hemoglobin is affected. Now, hemoglobin is the molecule that carries oxygen within our red cells to the rest of our body.
Okay.
And persons who suffer from sickle cell disorders, they have a variant hemoglobin known as hemoglobin S.
Okay.
And under certain conditions, hemoglobin S distorts the shape of the red cell from its round disc-like shape that's quite pliable through blood vessels to a crescent shape, or something that in the olden days might have been like a sickle that was used to cut grain.
Okay.
And when the cells deform in this way, they can't flow through the blood vessels well.
Okay.
And so they get stuck and they can clog those vessels and create a problem for whatever organ that's occurring in.
Okay. Do we know what causes sickle cell?
Well, it's inherited.
Okay.
It's inherited just like someone would inherit blue eyes. So you
Okay.
need an affected gene from both parents. So you're born with it. It's a lifelong disorder. It's not contagious.
Okay. Now, there's a difference then, and I guess we're talking about genes here, so I would understand this. There's a difference then between actually having sickle cell and knowing that those cells sometimes turn into that sickle shape and carrying the trait that would allow for sickle cell. So talk to me about the difference there.
Okay, so being a carrier, which again estimates about 1 in 10 Bahamians would be a carrier, whereas only about 1 in 400 to 500 Bahamians would be affected by sickle cell disease.
Okay.
Being a carrier generally is asymptomatic. In rigorous exercise and severe heat, occasionally persons with the trait can get into trouble.
Okay.
But in generally it's asymptomatic. And so what the importance of knowing whether you have the trait is generally around reproductive health, and that persons who've seen a loved one suffer from sickle cell disease would want to avoid having a child with sickle cell disease if possible. So it's important when thinking about a family or perhaps a serious relationship to know your status and the status of your partner so you can discuss whether you want to continue that relationship, given that a child could be affected as a 1 in 4 chance if both of you have the trait, or if one of you actually has sickle cell disease and one has the trait, then it would be a 50% chance that your children would, a single child would be affected on each occasion.
Wow.
So that's one of those really tough things on a personal level, but it is something to consider just because it is such a serious disorder.
So let's talk about the seriousness of the disorder. What are the ways that it manifests itself? How does that actually transpire into someone's everyday life with sickle cell disease?
So again, it depends on where this sluggish blood flow and the blocking of blood vessels occurs. So it can occur in an acute painful crisis, which is I think what most lay people would understand as a very severe consequence of sickle cell disease. And so on occasion, patients can present with severe excruciating pain that's worse than the worst toothache you've ever had, but it's through your whole body.
Oh, no.
And that's very apparent. It can also cause similar problems in the lungs. That's a very acute deterioration in your ability to breathe and get oxygen. But it can also cause silent problems. So if that blood vessel blockage is occurring in the brain, it can cause a stroke. And in children, it's frequently silent and can cause significant learning disabilities and cognitive disabilities for the rest of their life.
Wow.
It can also do similar problems in the spleen, in fact, routinely does. And so most patients with sickle cell disease don't have a functional spleen after the age of 2, and without a spleen you're much predisposed to infection. And similar problems can happen for the kidneys and other organs. So it does affect pretty much every organ in the body and can cause significant problems for patients that are affected.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what it must be like to be in pain worse than a toothache all over the body. And I have heard about that particular symptom. It's interesting that you bring up children, because sometimes we don't think about these things as connected to little people that would certainly be experiencing them. And to not have a spleen by the age of 2 is very significant. Do we test automatically our babies to determine whether or not they're sickle cell?
So children get tested on multiple occasions. I believe they get tested at birth.
Okay.
Those tests don't actually come to me.
Okay.
But basically, and then there's also a little bit of difficulty at birth because babies have an extra supply of what's termed fetal hemoglobin that protects them from some of these symptoms. But as that falls in that first year of life, then they can become symptomatic, generally from 6 to 9 months of age.
Okay.
So I certainly see the test from 1 year on. Every time they change school or enter school, they're tested. And so that is that they can know whether they have a sickle cell disease or sickle cell anemia, where they would have inherited the sickle gene from both parents. But you can sometimes have variant hemoglobins that still manifest as a sickle cell disease, but isn't strictly sickle cell anemia.
Okay, all right. All right, so our children, of course, are being tested for it, so that's good to know. And that means that you can find out pretty early on whether or not this trait impacts you. Is there a group that people can reach out to, or someone in your office that handles people that might be dealing with sickle cell and need resources and help?
Well, we have the sickle cell patients do come to the hematology oncology clinic at PMH, but probably the primary care physician is the most important person.
Okay.
We have a pediatric hematology oncologist expert, Dr. Corinne Sinkley Brown.
Okay.
And trying to think if there's, and I believe that there is a Bahamian society, a sickle cell society that's a big support group as well.
Okay, excellent. Can it be managed? Is there something that people can do day to day to just try to live the best life they could with the disease?
So it's really important. Good hydration is critical, and avoiding, I guess, streams of heat. It's also, there's medication in patients that are getting into trouble that can help reverse the problems, because patients with sickle cell are a bit anemic and they have an increased turnover of their red cells. They all need folic acid, which is an important vitamin that we tend not to get enough from our food. But there's also a medication, hydroxyurea, that can help decrease problems with this disease. And a new treatment that's been recommended is something called L-glutamine, which is a powder of an amino acid that can also help decrease incidence of painful crisis and other complications. So those would be the mainstays, but also early intervention for infections and prevention. So children are put on low doses of penicillin to prevent infections, and they should be vaccinated, particularly against pneumococcus, which is an important bacterial germ causing pneumonia and ear infections, and even meningitis. But they should definitely have all their childhood immunizations, and those specific for persons with not having a good functioning spleen as well.
All right. Well, some important information. I'm so grateful that you came to share it with us. Really happy that you brought up that vaccination again. We know that a lot's happening there now with people are not wanting to do that. So if your child does have sickle cell, we want to encourage those vaccinations. And if you do have sickle cell as an adult or as a teenager, you want to make sure that you're visiting your doctor to talk about the treatment methods that you just discussed as well.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Cartwright.
Pleasure. Thank you.
You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise, where we educate and inform. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
The 15th Annual Abaco Business Outlook. Join TCL Group on Thursday, September 20th, 2018 at the beautiful Abaco Beach Resort to talk about how to boost the island to world-class status. Hear from local industry experts, including Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Michael Pintard, Kerry Fountain, the Executive Director for the Bahamas Out Island Promotion Board, MP for Central and South Abaco, James Albury, President of the Abaco Chamber of Commerce, Ken Hutton, the Director for the National Insurance Board, Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, Patrice Roll from Sunshine Insurance, Carlos Mackey, the Principal for Prime Finance and Consulting, Donovan Ingram, the Corporate Wellness Coordinator for Atlantic Medical Insurance, from Graham Thompson, Samantha Williams and Alistair Crisnell, and Kevin Seymour, Chief Financial Officer for Pharmachem Technology GB Limited. The Outlook will also include a special workshop by the Department of Inland Revenue. Register now. Contact Margaret Aubrey at 242-322-7505 or Winsome Ferguson from the Abaco Ministry of Tourism at wferguson@bahamas.com.
I started in 1974 with the first born Bahamian principal, Dr. John Knowles. I am overjoyed because I've made it to the university. That was something to be proud about because I've seen all the changes from college to university. I am Mary Major Russell, and this is my UB.
One thing, two things. Blue thing, all things. Things that are small, things that are grand, things that fit just right, and in the palm of your hand. Fox Hill Nursery, a large selection of garden supplies. If you can see it in your mind, you can find it at Fox Hill Nursery.
So who really own a Nassau container port?
Boss, that's easy. The government. I do.
I do. Thank you. I do.
I do. And one day, he will too.
I do. Knock knock.
Here at the Nassau Container Port, we've diversified our ownership to give hardworking Bahamians a piece of the economic pie. And we'll continue to grow so that we can give you a consistent return on your investment. That's our promise.
How are we making Rev work wonders for you? We are doing it together. You told us what you want, and we've heard you. Want faster broadband? How about speeds up to 1 gigabit per second? Want shorter house calls? 2 hours max. We promise. Want to take your entertainment anywhere? Well, your Rev Go Play app is here. Rev, we've heard you. You speak, we listen. Rev, you and us together.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into Bahamas at Sunrise today. Certainly a very informative show.
Very informative show. We spent the last probably 10 minutes still discussing this Airbnb thing. Again, it is the rage. It's what's happening. I mean, I think all of us know somebody who's doing it, and they're doing well.
Listen, Phil, I know people who have stopped working and just managed 2 or 3 Airbnb properties and are doing extremely well. Yeah. We live in the Bahamas. People want to visit here, and it is a great opportunity. And so certainly one of the things for me, as you know, people have talked about Memories Hotel in Grand Bahama and just all of these other things happening in our tourism product. I'm hoping that we're looking at what the future looks like, the fact that Airbnb owns the largest real estate in the world without owning anything, and the fact that, you know, the last few times I've traveled, I've stayed in Airbnbs.
And the thing about it, not just Airbnb, but also tying in, you know, I love what Gavin is doing with Bahamas Ride, but being able to tie in the regular folks to the industries, not just the tourism industry, but also to the transportation industry. You know, like Jelly, you know, our resident expert here was saying, you know, people come to the Bahamas to have one thing. I mean, they travel for fun.
Right.
They travel for culture. They travel for the experience. They want to know exactly who you are. They want to be amongst us.
Right.
Although, you know, we are quite some characters at times, but that's what they want to experience.
And so I think it's so important. I remember years ago when that slogan was tourism was everybody's business, that now, especially with this Airbnb model, that we really appreciate what that means, and that these people are living next door to us as tourists now. They're not staying in hotels all the time.
No, they don't want
and so
to
we've got to make sure that we're interacting with them in a manner that makes them want to come back to the Bahamas, that is representative an excellent character of people.
Yeah, but you know what? We have to make sure that when they do come, that they're safe.
Yeah.
Once we get past that barrier, then all other things will fall into place.
Yeah, we still need to fix downtown, but that's another conversation
That's
for another
another
time.
conversation. That's a long one.
Great conversation on sickle cell anemia too, though. Really affecting a significant amount of our population here in the Bahamas, and 1 out of 10 people would be a carrier of that sickle cell trait. I am one as well, and so it's just really good to be informed and to know exactly what we can do to take care of our bodies in the best way that we can.
Just be your brother's keeper. Right?
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you all so much again for tuning in today. We will be back with more on Friday, and we will see you then.
Go dance for Dorian.
Dance for Darian and make it a wonderful week. Bye.